Right, welcome to another episode of the Old Paratrooper podcast. And I'm joined today by former paratrooper, former world kickboxing world champion, best-selling author and host of the Elite podcast, Mr. Lee Matthews. How you doing, pal? All right?
Good, mate. Good to see you again.
No, happy days, pal. Thanks for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it. We were just chatting then off air. I think last time and the first time I met you was 2019 for the 75th anniversary of Arnhem, in Arnhem, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, that's actually the first time I went as well. That's the first time I ever went to Arnhem, actually. I just never really got around to it. So it's a hell of a one to go to, the 75th. It was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. That's the same sketch, mate. Same sketch. That's the first one I went to, and I can't, like we've just spoke. Then you've just been to the 80th, and I sadly couldn't make it, but it looked like it was a proper good turnout.
It was. It's always hot, isn't it? And then you have to walk everywhere, and like we were because you just can't get the accommodation. It was booked out like nearly a year before, so we're in some caravan park. I don't know, 10 miles away, tabbing everywhere in the heat. I think the first day we were drinking in the airport by 6 a.m. And I said I weren't going to, so my mate obviously bought two over straight away. And then we kept going in the plane, kept going in the taxi, and we finished it. So we started at 6 a.m. and we finished at 3 a.m. the following day. So what's that? Flipping 21 hours first on the first day, straight onto the back foot. And then we didn't get much better from then, to be honest with you. But that's what Arnhem's like, isn't it? And then tabbing around everywhere. I think my legs swelled up because I'd been stood up for like 18 hours or walking around and drinking, and my legs had all swelled up like I've been old ladies. But yeah, it took a good few days to recover, but it was worth it.
Oh, it is a graft. It is like I've been on stag do's to Benidorm and stuff like that, but that's nothing compared to like a weekend in Arnhem. It was like you say, from the cusp on the ale, and then pretty much I think I had like 4 hours sleep, sharing a double bed with Ian, who we both know, and then straight back on it. And like you say, it's warm, and I was in a right pickle when I got back. I think I had like flu after the 4 days when I got back.
That's what happened to me. Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. I'm getting too old.
No, I refuse that. I was actually kind of glad that I was ill because my whole family went down as well. So they must have had the same thing. But I was kind of glad I was ill because I thought, oh no, I'm too old to do this anymore. And I was just more relieved that, in fact, I did actually have flu on my return. So perhaps I wasn't as bad as I thought. So I just have to try it again, won't I?
Yeah, no, fair enough, mate. Next time round, you just have to do it a bit harder. Make sure you do cripple yourself by the time
Absolutely.
you get back. So what I like to do, pal, with all the podcasts, start at the beginning, look at where you grew up and kind of ultimately what led you down the path that you took in life and onto the things that you're doing now. So yeah, over to you, pal. Where'd you grow up?
It's a place called Telford in the West Midlands. So it was all part of the Industrial Revolution, back in the day, part of the extension of the Black Country. Really, it's a little bit further out, but it's where the first iron bridge was created, all the canals, all the places where all the metalwork was made, and it's basically lots of villages, small old villages that are hundreds of years old, that they've just basically put a town centre in the middle of it and called it Telford. And it's got no real personality because all the little villages, you've got like Madeley and Wellington and Dawley, they've been around for hundreds of years and none of them like each other. And it was especially when I grew up, it was a particularly rough place to grow up, but also very good and wholesome because it was a typical 80s, 70s, 80s upbringing where we're out with your mates, out till late, on your bikes. 6 weeks holidays, you were never even in the house, were you? And you're getting into scraps, and then you're flipping running away from bigger kids, and so climbing up to trees and getting stuck up there and having to fucking figure out how the heck you're going to get down. So it's quite a wholesome upbringing, but it was, as I got a little bit older and getting to your teens, it was quite rough, and I moved quite a lot to different schools in different areas, and I was particularly tall, so I was like 6 foot by the time I was probably by 13 or so. But I was dead skinny. But I think because I looked probably a little bit older, I'd end up getting in trouble or altercations with older lads a lot. So, and really, you kind of you're still a child, really, aren't you? When you're 13, if you've got kids yourself now, and they are kids still, regardless of how tough they do act. you know, and how big they actually are. So it was quite an eye opener. I was getting into altercations and fights, and I got beat up when I was like 14, which was a bit of a turning point. I was at some party with girls. Do you know what I mean? They got served because there's a bit of makeup on back then. You could just go to the local pub, and there was some like
Yeah.
it was almost like it's like a counter at the pub. And you had a separate door. You could just buy straight from the pub all the beers. So we left the party with me and two girls, went and got some beers and that. And there's a group of lads around the pub, and one of them I knew was a year above me, and the others I didn't know they were, but they were quite a lot older, at 17. And I was speaking to the lad, and I just knew something was amiss. You know what I mean? When you know it's not right. And then before I knew it, he tried to hit us. I hit him back, and I got jumped on by all these lads, and they fucking kicked me in the head and, like, you know, left me for dead. I managed to get up and ran off, and like totally embarrassed because like I was around two girls, and one was a year older than me. And I just remember thinking like what the fuck? Yeah, that's the first time I'd experienced violence where I had to deal with it myself, and there was no, you know, there was no one to help. And I thought, well, this is like a rude awakening to what it's going to be like. And a couple of other incidents happened, and I just remember thinking that I don't want to be like this vulnerable. I can't be like, I don't want to feel like this again. What can I do? And I was already doing martial arts when I was a kid, but then I became kind of obsessed with it because I was doing it and I could see that I was getting better. And as I was getting better, it was like a life hack. I thought, I can actually change myself here. I can make myself tougher so I can actually be safer. And I just remember, so I'm obsessive compulsive, as a lot of us are in the Parachute Regiment. It's full of blokes on the spectrum. And if you don't think
Oh,
it
yeah.
is, go to D Company Patrols Platoon and look at their webbing and tell me these guys aren't on the spectrum. So, you know, so became obsessed, not just interested, obsessed. Everything I'd think about, everything I would do, every conversation I'd have, anything I would read would be to do with martial arts. And I was just getting myself kind of, you know, better and better at it all the time. And I'd have a couple of, you know, little scuffs at school, and I was able to like win the fights, you know, quite easily. And there was another turning point when I was 15. my best mate at the time was a lad called Craig Ward, and he did martial arts as well. But so to start off, we weren't mates because, like, who the fuck's this guy think he is? He thinks he does martial arts. But we ended up meeting through another friend, and we got on really, really well. And we're at this event called Donington Bonfire in Telford, which was just a melting pot of all the different areas, and it was just trouble galore.
Yeah.
Luckily, there weren't really knives or anything like that then. It was purely just going to get in a bit of a scrap, and you'd win some or you'd lose some. Do you know what I mean? So we were there, and we were drunk, like, you know, we was cutting about, and we weren't causing any particularly any bother, but we just walked away from the bonfire. Was at some pub, and some blokes come outside and like, oh, fuck off. And we were like, oh, no, you fuck off, or whatever it was. And the blokes came over and like and instigated trouble. And I just remember I was about 15 at the time, and I'd been sparring men in training. And they're quite easy, I'll be honest with you. Fighting a beginner male man, like in their 20s, 30s, even 30s and 40s were even easier because they're fat and they're unfit and they were slow and their reaction time wasn't good. And I just remember thinking, I can deal with them. I wonder if I can like deal with him. And then as he came forward, I just struck him and moved away, and it worked. I was like, oh, that was like relatively easy. And I just did that a few times, just kept moving away from him. And then he grabbed me with his man strength. And then I was like, oh, yeah. So I remember so what I did, I just instinctively headbutted him, and he went on the floor, and I was like, I won. Like I beat a man. So like, we ran off, and it was with my friend. And I just remember things turning a little bit then, and they probably turned a little bit too much the other way. And I was getting in.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, and then I'd just be getting into scraps all the time with anyone and anyone, and I wouldn't back down, and I wouldn't remove myself from situations when I could see it happening. I'd just stay there. So in my mind, I wasn't causing any trouble, but I was making no effort to stop it from escalating, and I was going to be straight in on whoever it was. So I ended up flipping it a little bit the other way. I obviously returned back as I got a bit older and I got a bit more experience. That's a sign of insecurity, really. That is, I can look back and see that now, and a kind of, you know, an amateurish mindset. but then it was on this journey then to kind of make myself stronger. You know, when I look back now, I can reflect on what that is. And I was like, what else can I do? I was about to leave school, minimal kind of qualifications and options. I was later diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 35, but I was just a monk, really, at school, because there's no such thing as dyslexia. I was just in step 4 for stuff. And I was disinterested. I was good at art. And you know what I mean? I didn't mind art, and I was pretty good at maths. Wasn't very good at English in any way. Didn't want to read anything or write anything down. So, you know, I started thinking of the army as an option. And then I found out about the Parachute Regiment, and there's all the stuff was going on in the news. You know, when was it? I joined 94, so this was like early 90s. And obviously the Falklands had not long been on, had it? You know, maybe 8 years or so before, and there was documentaries on. There was the documentary on the Paras that was on as well, and I thought these guys are something else. I thought I couldn't do that. That's just ridiculous. I won't want to be shot. I remember thinking no, I don't want to do that. Won't want to be shot. There's no way I'd want to do that. And then you toy with the idea, because I think we've all done that. In order to get in, you need to get to that place of surrender, don't you? Of your own kind of safety. If you go in there, I'll do it, but I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to go to you. In the end, you have to kind of surrender that mindset and just think, like, fuck it, I'm going for this now, regardless of the consequences and what happens. And so, over many years of like deliberation and teasing myself in and out of it, I'd made the commitment to do that, and then I was obsessed with that as I was then. After a few, you know, kind of starts trying to get in, because I was too skinny. I couldn't make the weight. I had to wait a year till I could put the weight on. Joined up ATR Lichfield. It was at the time, phase 1, 1994. So was you Lichfield and Catterick when you did it as well? Was it all?
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, so it only just split as well. So people were unsure as to what it was going to be like, and is it still going to produce the same quality of paratroopers as you got in Browning Barracks? Because, you know, all the reg, and I've seen many changes in the regiment since, and every time everyone thinks, oh, that's the end of the reg now. It's not going to be the same, and it's quite funny, isn't it? Because they're changing stuff again now, and I said it will be the same, you know. And then anyway, so we joined phase 1 training at ATR Lichfield, and off the bat, like, we were just getting absolutely thrashed. I remember the first PT session we did with Geordie Belstead, it was, and it was a 3-mile introduction run, steady state, and we just got absolutely thrashed. And then we did sprint grenades for about an hour in snow on the field, and all our knees were bleeding and everything. And we were playing like, I don't want to grass anyone up now, that wasn't him, but we was playing Space Invaders with medicine balls against the wall and all sorts. Do you know what I mean? And you're in the corridors getting thrashed, and I just thought, this is fucking brilliant. This is exactly what I signed up for. And then it's like, I've just got to survive it, you know. And then managed to get through the phase 1. Went up to Catterick. They merged a couple of platoons together, 598 and 599, which went on to be a really good, strong platoon with loads of guys that had done the full service in there. And we passed out in July. Was it July 95? And then went to 3 Para. They were just moved to Connaught Barracks in Dover.
Yeah, so, I know.
Yeah,
I think the first 5 weeks at Lichfield as well, because that's before you can go home. You pass off the square, don't you, on week 5, and then you can go.
Yeah,
so I think them first 5 weeks, they literally put it on and try and get rid of the people. And they do. The people leave in droves, don't they? You get maybe sort of easily maybe 10 or so that leave either injured or fake injuries, or just, you know, it's too much for them. And then it doesn't, you think it's going to get easier when you get to Catterick though as well, don't you? And it doesn't. It just gets harder and harder, doesn't
it? The harshness and the difficultness just changes form, doesn't it? You go from being thrashed in runs and circuits to being thrashed on tabs and going, you know, up and down the hill reps and longer, you know, extractions or, you know, or whatever it might be on exercises. Everything just kind of ups and ups, doesn't it? So it gets more difficult, but in different ways. But it was great. I don't know if that's the best, you know, trying to thrash everyone in the first 5 weeks is probably a terrible idea if you think about it.
Oh God, absolutely.
Don't do that now, and I think that's good, because you need to kind of build them into it. And some people might disagree, But you lose so many good people, like that could have been probably good paratroopers as well.
Yeah, injuries as well. Your bodies aren't used to it. I've said it a million times. You're 17, 18 years of age. You're still not fully developed. And
No,
then all of a sudden you're shocked to the system, getting absolute. I know there's an argument to say that, you should prepare yourself, but I don't think there is no preparing yourself. You could, maybe nowadays, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet and YouTube telling you how you can
yeah,
train for it. But back in the 90s, there was no way of knowing how. People go, oh, it's hard. You've got to train hard. But what's training hard? I was training as hard as I thought I needed to, and it still hit me like a brick wall when I got to Lichfield. I'm like, I've not been training hard enough at all. Do you know
no,
what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely not. Well, they definitely progress it more now, anyway. I think, which is probably a good thing. But
yeah,
you definitely still need to absolutely thrash people, because it's not just about physical capabilities; it's about mental endurance, isn't it? As you know, it's having a big one of them and the mindset just to keep going no matter what, and fucking redline it and just hold it in there, proper paratrooper style, like we did at Arnhem on the piss. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely, mate.
Whatever you're doing, you're redlining it. You're doing it to the absolute max, no compromise.
And that stays with you as well, And I am a firm believer is them sort of years like when you join and going to battalion, they're what shape you as an adult. I live my life and everything now that I do is based on them years that I served, and I believe that as well. It kind of molds you as a human, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It was, and it still is, in my opinion, the best self-development course that a young man can go on, bar none. And my youngest son, who's 17 at the minute, we're trying to get him in. So he's been rejected 6 times with the fucking Capita
I
saga.
remember you saying, yeah.
Yeah, so luckily we've got one last appeal, and we've had the regimental colonel as luckily he's on board, and they've written a letter and they've just said, listen, we understand and we'll take him on board, and if not, there's something that they can claim him. You see, so if we do get rejected, there's still other opportunities, But I'm only putting him forward for that because it's not like people say, oh, it's shit, it's this, it's that, it's the other. It's not about what it is, it's about who it makes you. You know what I mean? It's about the type of person you become by going through that training and being around that. And yeah, a lot of the times, a lot of the stuff you're doing is shit. A lot of the times, some of the stuff you're doing is absolutely amazing as well, isn't it? But
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
you're surrounded by like-minded people. You're having a fucking laugh all the time. It's just relentless, isn't it? Like non-stop. And that is what
Yeah, and
keeps you going.
absolutely. Them times when it is shit, and we will be able to relate to millions of times being on Salisbury Plain in February, being in Brecon, freezing, absolutely freezing, almost on the verge of hypothermic or even hypothermic, but not even
Yeah,
knowing it. But they're the periods of time when you learn a lot about yourself. You learn what you've got inside you to keep going, and like ever since then there's been times when it's got hard in life, but I look back, well, I go, I could do that, and I did do that. So you've got it in you, and you're quite rightly saying that. Your lad will go there, and he will learn a lot about himself, and it'll make him a stronger human. I'm a big believer in that.
that's it. And you make him a man as well, because I think, you know, where do young men go to become men nowadays? What do they do? You know what I mean? It was quite, when you grew up in the 90s, and even more so beforehand, 70s, 80s, whatever, you keep going back. There was men were men. You'd go out, people were getting into fights, you'd fall out with your mates, you'd sort it out, you'd make back up. There was a lot of positive male role models, that looked like us, so that, that you could look up to. And I think now it's almost like they're a dirty secret, isn't it? And people are trying to discourage it almost.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It does appear that way. And I don't know whether that is in reality what's happening, or whether the media is trying to make that the kind of thing, this toxic masculinity vibe that they go with. I try not to get into all that kind of stuff because I do believe the media kind of make it that way, but there's certainly a lot going off for youngsters now. I mean, I'm quite honest about the fact I'm glad I'm not growing up in the world that we live in now, because there's just so much stuff that's going on around, and different kind of debates about this that wasn't a thing when we were. I'm not going to go into detail, but we know what I'm talking about. But there's so many distractions for them now with all that stuff, and what they can't say, what they can say, who they're going to offend, what this term's offensive, that term's offensive. So again, it's just a difficult time, and you're right in what you say there. It's I wouldn't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
grow up nowadays. I'm pretty certain of that.
I know the army's got a lot of rules about what you can do and what you can't do. I was just wondering, for the guys that are serving regular, you know, now if they probably still doing exactly things the same. There's just policies can change and rules can change, but it's about getting caught, isn't it? I think the blokes are still the blokes. They most certainly are the ones that I managed to, you know, to see. Because obviously I'm serving with 4 para now, aren't I? As a
Yeah.
reservist, after coming out of, you know, doing 8 years when I was younger. Got back in, did all the training again, apart from P Company when I was 45. Now I'm in 4 para. I know, fucking hell, I've had a new hip since. Yeah, so that was a humbling experience with that. But I was at the depot, and the staff are brilliant, just exactly the same as we remembered them. All the blokes, all the staff are, and I know some things have changed quite recently. They've got this soldier academy in place, and there's a lot more eyes on them at the minute because it's just been integrated, and they're looking at merging phase one with everybody, so it's not just Power Edge, which is going to be, I know, but and then they've extended phase two though, and then that's going to be just Power Edge and all the rest of it. So I know that things, but the reg will be the reg. The culture's not going to change. We've still got P Company, and we've still got the professional troops and the mindset. So if that does happen, we'll work around it. I know we will, and we'll still get the, you know, we've still got the recruits. They've still got them for, like you say, I think it's 38 weeks now instead of 28. So
Oh
although
wow.
so they've added, although they've got this 13 weeks at the start, you've now got a longer phase two. So I'm sure they'll embed the culture still to the
No,
same.
absolutely. No, they will do. But yeah, no, fair play. I forgot that you'd done 4 para. I did see a post when you kind of mentioned it because it's
Yeah,
a few years ago that you did it now,
it
isn't it?
was. Yeah. So I'm in the training team now. So I'm actually off on exercise on Friday. I got on my all my kit pack there. I'm always 90% packed for exercise just in case. And then I'll give a little kit. I'm having a little kit check today. I don't want to leave to the last minute. Make sure I've got everything, and then off just to help the recruits. I think they're weekend 9, so they're getting towards the end of their carder at the minute. So yeah, a few exercises, a few bug outs, setting up
Fair
that.
play to you. Fair play to you. I went through 4 para. I did about a year with 4 para
Did
back
you?
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a gap from the close protection working abroad, and I was very aware of how the guys were leaving the forces in droves, and the competition for work was getting more and more kind of difficult. So, and I
Yeah.
was aware that the time I was out was getting longer and longer. So I thought, well, I'll tell you what, I wanted to anyway. I'll join 4 para, and then that keeps me a little bit current with weapon system, SOP,
Yeah.
all the kind of military
Well,
stuff.
helps because aren't you? You're currently trained soldier. You
Yeah,
know.
that was kind of my logic. So I went up, and all I had to do was a P Company 10 miler. But I had been training, but again, it's that thing, and it was a bit like I forgot how hard they were. So I had to do a P Company 10 miler up round Catterick training area
Yeah.
with a load
Yeah.
of recruits. I could wear a Reg t-shirt, and I did a lot of that helping the people at the back as well. Because I was hanging out my arse. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I passed that, and I ended up doing a few weekends with him, and I worked with Moose. Do you know Moose Miller?
I'm not sure.
He was a sniper in 2 para, so I did a bit of working with him because he was in charge of kind of doing some bits and bobs with 4 para. But it kind of phased out for me because I couldn't keep the commitment up with working abroad. So,
Of course.
yeah, and it was just one of them things. I mean, but I couldn't do it now. I mean, I'm 45 next, and the thought of
Yeah.
doing that
Well, yeah,
sort of
I was
stuff.
going for it. I did the 11 weekends. Don't get me wrong, though. I mean, I did the 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, whatever it is at Catterick. You do 11 weekends, and then you do the 2 weeks at Catterick. But the Sergeant Major in
Right.
charge of the 11 weekends is Sergeant Major Dan Jarvie. So from
Oh
Three
yeah.
Para Mortars, we used to be in Mortars together. So he was a good mate of mine. So I obviously still have to do everything. I have to do all the ranges, all the fizz. I got in there with the recruit. I loved it. The recruits loved me. Like, because I was there, I was helping. I just wanted to help as much as I could with everybody else to take the pressure off yourself a little bit. Then, doesn't it? You don't think
Yeah.
about yourself. You're thinking of others. And I just got in there. I got rid of my phone. Down my phone for the weekend. I was zen. It was an experience going back to when we were younger. You know, the best times you have when you're young and you're in the army. And it's one of the best moments ever. And I was like able to kind of re-simulate those feelings of no phones, of freedom. All you're thinking about is your next meal. What have you got coming next? And it was really, really good. It was great. It was a great reminder for me and refresh. And then I went to Catterick and did the 2.5 weeks. But because I knew some of the guys there, and because I'd done stuff before, I didn't have to do. I did all the phys and I did all the ranges and everything like that because I was in the top third for fitness, obviously. Still, even though I was older. But then, like on the exercises and stuff, I was just playing it. They got us to play enemy, and that I'll tell you what, I wasn't, and I was quite happy about that, to be honest. That first exercise that went on, it was snowing on the first day.
Oof.
Then it rained and it all melted, and then it froze, and then it was weird. It did everything in the worst possible combination, and there was literally like a third of the blokes were like nearly going down with hypothermia on the first day. So yeah, so but it was good, and the guys there made me feel at home, and it was just like being with all the blokes again. It was such an amazing experience, and now I get to go away every couple of weeks and kind of just I do it just to kind of give back a little bit. I think so I can offer stuff, because not just because of what I did in the army, because I've nothing exceptional. I did in 8 years, what I mean. Got junior NCO, did a couple of tours, and fucking Buckshee, really, like most blokes that have been in the reg. But it's because of my life afterwards. I've been out and I was a professional fighter, and because I was a physical training instructor, I opened like a chain of martial arts schools and built the biggest chain of martial arts centres in the UK. Opened over about 200 schools over the course of 25 years. So I've got all that leadership, management skills. I've also got a vast PT experience and knowledge as well. And so that mixed in with my previous kind of military experience, I thought, being a bit older, I thought I can definitely bring some value to the recruits and help drive. I'm used to bringing people through difficult events and getting them through there. So, and that's what I'm trying to do now. So.
No, fair play. So, like, with your martial arts now, obviously you did 8 years. You'd have been in for the Kosovo tour then, 99?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the best time in the army, to be honest. That was a really little tour that was to do. That was really good, because not much had been going. I mean, you had Ireland, obviously, didn't you? And then it was kind of after that, when I got out, everything really started to cascade a little bit.
Same as me, mate.
Then you had Sierra Leone, which one para did. My brother was part of that, and he was a captain in one para. So he got the MC for that. My brother did. He was 2IC of the company that was helping from one para.
Oh, right, okay.
The OC got hit with shrapnel, didn't he? So my brother took over command, and then ended up getting the military cross for that when he was 23 years old as well. He was only young.
Wow.
So I keep trying to get him to write a book. It's like, you need to write someone he's old school. He won't gob off. He goes, I'm not doing
that.
So then that happened.
Not bothered, no.
And then you had all the Iraqs and Afghan and everything, and the blokes experienced flipping so much in those tours. But up until that point, like Kosovo, and even though it wasn't like a real kinetic, it wasn't kinetic in the sense that was getting contacted all the time. But compared to what we had been doing, it was a war zone, wasn't it? And
of course it was.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a turning point, wasn't it? Like Kosovo, it was a bit like the reg in the public eye again, and hold on a minute. And then after that, it kind of. So I went to Sierra Leone as a company of 2 para attached to 1 para on the first part of the Sierra Leone, and then obviously the actual hostage rescue, without going into too much detail, was done by 1 para. But that's when it kind of started, wasn't it? It started to get busy. Then Iraq, and then obviously we all know about the Afghan tours, but. Again, I didn't know the Afghan tours were coming, and I've said it a million times. I probably would have stayed. I would have definitely stayed in if I knew they were coming, because I actually read the 3 para book, 2006. That book, and I looked at getting back in and went for an FTRS with to go out there with Power Edge again. But yeah, that's another story. But yeah, so it's started to kick off again then. So what year? So obviously you did the Kosovo tour, so that would have been about your 5-year point, wouldn't it, Kosovo, when you'd have gone there, roughly?
Yeah, I think it was 99, wasn't it? So it would have been, that's right.
Yeah. And then, so obviously overseas exercises. Did you get Norway in?
Yeah, I did a few Norways. There was we did, and then a couple of Canadas.
Yeah.
So as well as a few other Buckshee ones here and there as well. So yeah, I did a fair bit.
Happy days.
In the times, it was great. I was in 3 para mortars for a lot of that as well. And then when I moved out of the mortars, I moved. I was a PTI, got posted to ATR Litchfield as PTI, and that was where I finished. And that's only half an hour from where I live. So while I was working as a PTI there, so fit, I was like mid-20s, like doing my own training every day and doing 2 or 3 little sessions with the recruits, a couple of back-to-back runs, and then a gym session, and then going kickboxing in the evening, just 3-4 times a day, just non-stop. And you don't realize how fit you are at the time, do you? But that was
No.
40 minutes from where I lived in Telford, where I started my first club. So when I was resettling, I basically was able to do that while I was still working. And then I had the chunk of time, like a few months as well. And I think I needed to get 50 students or something so I could earn the same I was earning in the army, because I just got married, had a kid, and just bought a house. About 60 grand at the time or something stupid, like dead cheap.
Yeah, I bet.
So I managed to get about 150, I think it was, rather than 50. So I was earning more, way more than I'd already earned when I was in. I didn't really know what to do with it, and that just escalated. I just followed what I was doing, putting on a professional persona as an alpha male, like military style PTI on there, owning the floor, having confidence, and teaching military style classes, like, so everyone's doubling everywhere, they're shouting out the answers, real emphasis on all of the military things, like we're doing kit inspections, everyone's inspected at the start of each class, everyone has to run everywhere, they're shouting out answers confidently. I developed my syllabus, which was to replicate my experience as a paratrooper. So there'll be milestone events, sparring events. You've got million's nothing compared to what the guys have to do for black belt. It's like 16 rounds of different things, of points and light contacts with burpees in between it, and they have to fight 2-on-1, and then they've got to grapple on the floor afterwards, and they have to do a 10 hills run. And then developed an instructor training course where I'd get people, rather settle ex-military, but civilians would come on it as well. I just wanted, or like elite level athletes and stuff. And my 5-day selection course would have like a log run on it, and fitness, and it's all about testing heart and character. So I wanted to be associated with similar people still. And I knew if I was niche, I didn't want to be mainstream. I wanted to do what suited me, my personality type. And attract the right people. And I wanted to have quality. I didn't want to be big. It was never a goal to be big. It was to be good. It was to be exceptional, and have the right people. As we do in the Parachute Regiment, everything you do is the best thing you can do, and then you do it better the next time. Just keeping that level of attention to detail and perfection and graft with everything that I was doing, and the people I was started attracting more and more. And because they were the right people, they would be successful. And I'd expand and I'd fine tune my course, and got the course better and better. I'd done the course 4 times a year for probably about 18 years. So I knew that material, I'd fine tune the material. It was a mixture of kind of like how you'd learn to be, like, when you're on the PTI course and you're learning to deliver information, mixed in with how to teach young primary school age children, mixed in with sports science and fitness, mixed in with military style tests as well, and obviously tests on their martial arts capabilities. Then they get a final debrief at the end with a final score. A graders were able then to work with us, and if they didn't, they can retest on the things that they went down on. So for the right people, when you were selling it to them, it weren't a sell. They were like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. For most people, it puts them off. Like, no, I want an easy route in. It's not what I want to do. But for the right people, then it seems like the perfect fit. So I would then mentor these guys, and then I got that many people from being police officers or coming out of the military or in a full-time job they hated into teaching martial arts professionally, like into their dream. And I've done it that many times now. I've done it with loads of people. It's easy for me, and for someone, it's such a big deal for them to leave, because military people are so resourceful and so good at solving problems, and yet on the flip side, some of them are so insecure and unconfident about not having a regular paycheck. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, and it's like, if they could just let go of that a little bit and trust themselves to be able to solve the problems, they'll be surprised at what they can do. And they make very good entrepreneurs, paratroopers do, if given the right situation and circumstances, because by nature we're problem solvers. You have to get to the objective no matter what, do you? You can't just stop. So, and it's the same as an entrepreneur and a businessman. You just need to get to the end. You need to achieve the objective and the goal. Think outside the box and utilize your team to help you achieve it. So that developed as well, and I got to a point where I'd opened loads of schools up, and things are going well, and I've systemized everything. I've got people in place to do everything. Don't really need to do much day to day if I didn't want to. However, I work harder now than I've ever worked because I'm always striving for the next thing. So I decided to write a book to like put my systems from the course. And when I did it, I kind of like re-systemized everything, and I called it the 6 rounds. And I made my book. Yeah, not trying to prompt it, but just so you know.
No, go for it.
Got an alley. It's an alley front cover on that. Look at that. He doesn't get the
alley.
Oh
yeah, cat badges on there and all, bit of paratroopers in the background. I like it, mate. That's good.
There you go. Unless I had a moustache and a machine gun as well, it couldn't be any better, I don't think.
Falkland stash.
Yeah. So it's called it elite because it represents elite mindset, which is what we all possess. So elite martial arts instructor. So it's a process. It's like a 6-stage process, but it is also mindset as well, because you can have the best processes and information in the world, but if you don't implement it, then you're not gonna be successful. You're going to be just as successful as someone who has no information. Someone that has information and doesn't implement it, it's probably even worse because you've got it. So I wanted to systemize it, but also pre-frame and reframe people about how they need to be in business. So, like you need your approach to problems. You're never going to solve all your problems, are you? The bigger you get, the more problems you're going to get. So it's like to learn to live in free fall and live in the storm peacefully. And that's how you start to grow. And what I've done is with the 6-round system, I basically give each one a military analogy. So the first one's red on. So it's the preparation stage. Second round is green on go, which is the launch night. So everything you do for the launch of your school. The next one is advance to battle, which is the rapid growth phase of your school, how to build it up to something substantial. The next one is retention, which is the battle. Okay. So retaining what you've built and the legacy you've made. Then the next round 5 is the reorg, okay, which is the restructure of your business, which you built something up. So you pull yourself back and you change the financial structures of it so you're more efficient for tax and VAT and all the rest of it. And then the last one is training and selection. So it's picking and selecting your team and then how to train them and then integrate those into round 1. So it's cyclical, so you can continue to scale and grow your business. So a lot of that is not really it's for martial arts, but a lot of that is also just for any business really as well. But all I was doing is what I knew, and I know martial arts and I know being a paratrooper. So that's it. I'm a one-trick pony really, but I've managed to forge a living through doing those, by being obsessed about them and then getting myself right to the very top, in my particular micro niche really.
No, absolutely, pal. And like you say, the mindset of it takes. I mean, we take it a little bit for granted being paratroopers because and I don't want to sound big-headed because you've been there and done it, but then it's easy to forget what it took to get there and the mindset and everything else that it took to get there. I mean, it's a long time ago. I'm sure it is for you as well. I mean, it's 25, 26 years ago for me now, even longer. And you kind of forget that mindset you had, but it's embedded in there then, isn't it? And then if you could, like you say, what you've done successfully is transferred it into the civilian market and made a business model off everything and the mindset you've learned from being a paratrooper. And I think that's an absolutely brilliant way of doing it. And obviously it works. It's it's proven you're successful. You've got your schools. Was it 150 schools across the UK?
I've opened over 200. So anytime I've got over 100 that are active. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously over the course of 20 years, you shut some of them as well.
Yeah.
So that's and I've got a whole team of like, I don't know, maybe about 70 odd people that are like seniors and managers and instructors. Wow. So, but I've systemized it all into a mentoring program that I run now. And I've got section commanders and sections and 2 ICs, and we have monthly online. I've managed to kind of get it all online monthly now. So we do half-day webinars. I have everybody on, guest speakers in. Then they drop into their sections, speak with their section commanders, write their goals for the next quarter. And then we check in halfway through the month. They have another Zoom meeting with just the sections. And then every 3 months, it's a big face-to-face. And we get really good top level presenters that will come down and absolutely just keep the energy up, keep momentum going, keep everyone motivated, inspired. And also on this flip side of it, talk about what's wrong, and come up with solutions for it, and listen in real time to other people's problems that are similar to theirs, so it helps. So, and I've managed to now condense everything into such a way that I can now mentor. I can probably triple the size of my organization now and not have to do any more work because of the systems that I've got in place. And that's what a business is. It's when it's scalable. And I've obviously already scaled to some degree, but this reorg that I've just done recently, once I started the book and this mentoring program for the instructors, has allowed me to put things in place that I'm going to be able to do it from anywhere in the world, really. If I wanted to go, with my wife and I are looking at getting a place in Dubai soon. So, it can be done like this. So unless it's black belt gradings or the quarterly annual meeting, which I can come back to the UK for. Not saying that I will, but I wanted to make sure that I can if I want to. So that's what I've been doing. So I think we're going to be on a big push next year to drive the business up, open another 100.
Wow, no, that's brilliant, pal. And like you say, I think there's an importance there to have face-to-face from time to time, even if you're from Dubai. But what's Dubai? 6 hours away? It's not the end of the world, is it? Because you can do a lot of stuff remotely, but like you say, I think sometimes having that presence face-to-face is definitely worth it for certain things. But no, it sounds outstanding, pal. And I don't. Obviously, I've done a bit of research on you, and I do know a bit, and I've been following your bits and bobs for since we met, really, maybe 6-7 years ago. So I have been following it, but I didn't know to the depths. And I really, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the podcast. I genuinely like how you've took that kind of power edge, kind of the orders, the kind of section battle drills, and almost turn it to a business model. Because I suppose inadvertently, business models are based around stuff like that, but I like the wording and how. And look, the way my brain works, probably the same as a lot of paratroopers. I need it simplifying. It's not because I'm not intelligent, even though I'm not overly, but it's because my brain processes things in different ways. So the way you've just worded it like that, it's gone in. Believe it or not, it's gone in. So it's kind of how it works. No, I like that, mate. It's really good. So the book itself was a #1 bestseller, wasn't it, on Amazon?
Book, yeah. Within, I got my hip done. I got my new hip on the 31st of October, and my book came out on the 1st of November. So a year, nearly a year ago. So that was last year. And within that day, the first day, it was #1 in all three categories. Straight off the bat, which was good. Yeah, I made sure I managed and coordinated from my bed, which I thought would be a good idea, which was a fucking terrible idea because I was absolutely off my head on all the drugs. But you just reg it out, don't you? It seems a good idea. Yeah, I know I'd get through it. How hard can it be? Get a hip and that fucking move. I didn't realise never even thought about how bad I was going to be, but literally couldn't move for a month. I didn't want to because I didn't want to dislocate my hip, which is more. It's not that common, but it can happen. And if it's going to happen, it happens in the first few weeks. So I did not want to experience that at any stage, a dislocated hip.
No, I don't blame you. How is the hip now? Is it good as new?
Great. Yeah, it's great. Well, I do every morning. I get up, I do 30 minutes cardio, go to the gym, weight train, do another 10 to 15 minutes of HIIT training, and then I'll do another walk later in the day. But I can run as well now. I've been running. I don't overly run though because it's not just that. I just don't need to. I do HIIT training and bag work and stuff now. So I did a couple of sessions with a boxing coach over the last few weeks. So that was the last thing because turning my hip onto things would feel odd, and I was worried.
Yeah.
So it was mainly confidence more than anything, to be fair. Because once I had a few sessions on the pads, and I realised actually it's cleared to go that far. It's okay. Did a couple of BJJ classes as well. Again, I thought that might be a bit more challenging, but it was okay. I wasn't going full in. I'm 48 in next month. I don't need to go full in really now. I've done enough. I just want to be ticking over at this stage. You know the score.
Yeah.
As long as my body looks good, that's my main thing at this age, is to stay and look the part. And the rest of it's fucking smoke and mirrors really now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. But You have to kind of adapt your training, and I've learned that since getting past 40. You adapt your training. I changed my training now. I used to be big into my running, and I don't run anymore
Yeah.
because I get injured. But I still do a lot of bad work, hit training, weights, and stuff like that. And obviously, the same as yourself. You know, your career and your jobs, and obviously with Former Para still require you to be functionally fit. And obviously, mine's the same with being in the fire service. You still have
Yeah,
to
we
be.
tab as well. Sorry, tab every 2 weeks on the Sunday mornings. There you go with the
Oof.
4 Paratroop.
Yeah,
So,
fair play to you, mate. I mean, like I say, I mean, I'm not 48. It's not old, but it's not young either. And
yeah.
it is, you know, them sort of things were hard in your 20s. So to still be doing them in your 40s, I mean, hats off, pal. It's detriment to you that's really really good.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
no dramas, mate. So yeah, obviously moving on from that. So we talked about the book, talked about your schools, obviously talked about your career in the Parachute Regiment, and obviously more of I want to say a more recent thing. But obviously, you now host the Elite podcast as well, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. And you're going to be getting interviewed as well on there in a couple of weeks' times. So looking
Happy
forward to
days.
that as well. That'd be good. But
Yeah, me
yeah,
too, mate. Me too.
so I do that once every 2 weeks. So I do that once every 2 weeks. I know you do yours every week, don't you? I think I am going to build up eventually, but I'm just trying to do more quality, not quantity at this stage, because I'm so busy with everything else. I thought I don't want to
Yeah.
overstretch myself, overcommit, and then have to stop. I thought if I can just like do them and consistently and manage it. So and I've got an editing team as well. So I've got the guys, we film at Liverpool Podcast Studios, which is amazing, and I get it all set up for my particular kind of layout. Um, and it's about quality of guests as well. And as you'll know as well, you don't just want to be bringing in anybody, do you? It's got to be
Yeah.
in line with your core branding values. And for me, with it being elite, it's anyone who's elite. So that means people that have served, not just regular in the military, if they're paratroopers, Marines, SAS, or someone that's done some type of special operations within the military, or has something to offer as an entrepreneur, as an athlete, okay, martial artists. They have a lot of martial artists on there, obviously. Probably half martial arts, half military, with a few entrepreneurs split in there. But a lot of the guys that come with the military guys are normally military and entrepreneurs, do you know what I mean? Or martial arts and entrepreneurial martial arts. So if I can, it's great. I like multiple threads, but I'm generally like yourself. I'm inquisitive and I love talking. Do you know what I mean? I love to have a chat. I chat to fucking people I don't know at the gym and all sorts. Luckily, I live in Liverpool though now, and it's normal up here because everyone just
Yeah.
gets you here. Like back where I'm from in the Midlands, people are giving you weird looks or trying to give you a bit of a wide berth. But you know, so I enjoy speaking to people, and because I'm getting people that I'm interested in, it's a learning process. Like
Yeah.
I'm the student. I'm first and foremost, I'm always a student. Don't think of it. I am an instructor, obviously, but I'm more like a lead scout. That's how I look at it. I want new information all the time. I want to learn something. If I'm engaging with someone, what can I learn from this person? Is what I'm looking at, rather than making it about me and trying to gob off or talk about what I've done, which is kind of what I've done on your podcast today instead.
It's difficult though, and it's like striking a balance, isn't it? And it is difficult because your conversation goes, and I'm the same as what you say there. I kind of interject where I need to,
Yeah,
and I kind of have my input just so the people understand how I relate to it. But ultimately, it's your story, and you kind of share it, and that's I like that. I'm like the same as you, mate. I do like to gain information and talk to. It's a bit selfish, really, I suppose, isn't it? Because I do it as well as for a number of reasons, but to talk to interested people like yourself, So,
yeah, thank you. And I tell you what, it's great for. It's really good for networking.
oh,
Really, really
absolutely.
good for, and your level of your success will be dictated by your network. I can tell you that straight away now. And if people are quite insular and keep themselves to themselves, get yourself out your comfort zone. That'll be my advice, and just push yourself out there a little bit. Network. I mean, you see celebrities, why a lot of these are rich. It's not just from the work they get, it's from the exposure to all the other people that are around them and the opportunities that come from that. So if you push yourself out regularly, make it your task to speak to someone you don't know or drop somebody a message, yeah, you're going to get rejected. So what? And like you saying before, like, you have to hound people sometimes, don't you? I do. I am not, I'd have been a good stalker. Do you know what I mean? But if I'm on something, I tell people that when I'm teaching them marketing and sales and like following up on people, be intense and follow up and just keep going. You can get older people. People want to do stuff sometimes, but they're just busy, aren't they? So
Absolutely.
increase your network, push yourself out there, and then opportunities will arise, from that, and they have with me. And I've had some of the people I've worked with from speaking with you. We've both done a podcast with each other. Spoke to someone the other day. He's in their ex-specialised infantry, the King's Regiment, it was called, from one of my mates from Liverpool. He became RSM and went to specialised infantry when he was the RSM, and then it went to Rangers, so he was part of the Rangers. And he runs a leadership and management course. I've had him on my podcast. He's out soon. Really nice bloke. And I got him speaking on one of my shows the other week because he's so well put together. So it's great to get in there and network and just meet new people.
Oh no, absolutely. I love the networking aspects, and you start these ventures off as I have done and you have done, and you never know what turn. You don't plan for some of the avenues that you end up going down, and you kind of stuff happens. I'm on about sort of bringing out a bit of a merchandise range. It's not going to make me. It's more for advertising, but
yeah,
the opportunities arise along the way, and you wouldn't have kind of got them if you didn't think, you know what. And when I kind of said I was going to do a podcast, a lot of people laughed at me and went, "Oh yeah, what are you going to talk about?" and everything else. And there's a few people now going, "Actually, it's really good." And I'm like, "Well, thank you, but you've got, it's like you say, you've got to put yourself out your comfort zone. You never know how it's going to pan out. It could fail, but failure is one of them things that we all encounter, isn't it?"
It is, absolutely, and you've got to put yourself out there a little bit, especially nowadays. So you've got to put yourself out there with the option of when you first start out at something, when you're not very good at it or you're not established. You just need to persevere past that point. And if you persevere and you keep going and you're checking and adjusting all the time as you're going along, and you're improving what you're doing and what your product is, you're going to get there as long as you don't change your mind or stop doing it. And obviously your proof with the success that your podcast has had. And
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Now it's scaling as well. You watch, you hit a point, don't you, where it just all of a sudden will start to snowball. I've seen it do that quite recently as well. And then you get them, obviously, the bigger you get, the easier it is to get guests on, and the better quality of guests you can get on as well as your audience. Then it just starts with the algorithm, starts to scale. But that's the kind of the recipe for any success as well, really, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think perseverance is a thing. And I read something about podcasting that most podcasters quit within the first 8 episodes.
Yeah, I heard something about that as
Or,
well. Yeah.
or I might have been 11 or something like that. So I'm well past that now. So hopefully, but yeah, it is, and I can understand it because you'd have probably been the same as me. You put out your first few episodes and they get like sort of
No one's
50
looking at them.
views, and
Yeah.
you just like, and you get sick of sharing them. You think nothing's going to happen. Might get 1 or 2 likes, and now you're at a stage you'll put something out and it'll surprise you. By the time you've done something and come back and check the stats, an hour later you've had 500 views or 1,000, and you're like, "Whoa, okay,
Yeah.
it's getting there." But yeah, it's definitely perseverance, and I kind of agree with what you say there, and I'm a big advocate of that. It's about putting yourself out of your comfort zone, because there are far too many people that just sit in the comfort zone and never test themselves. And I couldn't think of anything worse personally. I similar sort of careers with the military and stuff, but and obviously I've boxed not at the same level when it comes to your kind of kickboxing at a lower level, but that was all about putting myself out the comfort zone as well.
Absolutely. It's nothing.
Everything you've done.
Putting yourself in the ring, as you know, mate, it almost feels like a lose-lose situation, doesn't it? You know what I mean? If you win, then especially if you think you're hard, you got to win just to maintain your own personal image of yourself. Do you know what I mean? And if you lose,
Yeah.
you're going to deal with that. Maybe you're not as tough as you think you are. It's a very, very vulnerable position to put yourself in. But, when you start, on my first tournament, I got knocked out cold when I was 12, and I never wanted to do it again. And I said I wouldn't have done it. And then I had to go repeatedly to events, and I lost a lot. But you have to keep losing is one of the best ways. And people don't realize this unless they're a top level amateur athlete in some arena. So I've done about 700 kickboxing matches. If I work 600 or 700 kickboxing matches, because I fought in mat sports. So I'd go to an event and I could have fight in 2 sections, and then I could have 3 or 4 fights in each section Okay. Then I could fight in a team event and an open weight. And I'd do this every weekend. I'd be fighting. I'd be abroad every 4 to 6 weeks. I did that for like 20 years. Like I did a lot, you know, I apart from when I was breaks for this, that, and the other, and I'd represent Great Britain for 12 years. And so I'd be fighting all the time. And when I first started, you'd lose a lot. And I've coached a lot of people to world champion level. And I say your first year, don't worry about winning. Just worry about exposure. Get yourself used to the situation. Try and have good fights. Try and learn to listen. And obviously the wins will start to come. And then we can start really getting competitive with you once you've bedded in and you understand that you have to like relinquish your ego to get good. It's the opposite of what you think. You build an ego afterwards. If you have an ego too earlier on, it will prevent you from growing in anything, because you will not like to feel that feeling of being vulnerable, being a beginner, or losing. And it's the opposite of what you need to do to excel and to become really good at something. So that's why I've still got that in me where I can go. That's why I did all the training for 4-Para again. I'm like, I'm a white belt again. Okay. I'm 45, 20 years older than the staff here. I'm good to go. Let's go. I'm not going to be a dick about it or try and be arrogant. I'm just going to try and do the best I can and get stuck in. And if you can keep that kind of humility, about yourself, then you'll be more successful than someone who's strutting about with a big ego, you know, because they've had 5 fights and won 4 of them against bums, and they don't want to fight anymore now because they've established a bit of an ego. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. So it's when you become good at something at an amateur level, you then don't realise the gap between amateur and professional, and which is quite substantial. There's a massive gap, but it takes
100%,
but you can get good within 12 months at anything. You can get better than most amateurs or most people that don't do something. You do a year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or a year of boxing and have a handful of fights, you're going to be able to beat literally most people on the planet, but you're not going to be anywhere near the level of a top level professional. But the professionals have normally, people that are exceptional at something are normally have got way more humility, because they have lost loads and loads of times, as I did in the earlier stages. And it sets the foundation for learning and that mindset of resilience to, just overcome it and crack on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like bouncing back from a loss, isn't it? And that,
Yeah.
whether that be in a ring or whether that be a failing P company or anything like them along them lines, you've got to suffer that part of it, and hopefully you'll grow and learn from it, like you say. So I'm glad you talked about it, because I was going to go on to you your bit more about because we glazed over your kind of kickboxing career, but I'm glad you kind of brought that up, and like 700 fights. That's a fair few, isn't it?
Yeah, I had a lot of mat time. That doesn't include all the ones down in Dover or Aldershot as well.
What, the ones in the town? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No,
So
fair play to you,
that's an approximate number. I don't know. I haven't really got a clue kind of what it is, but I kind of worked it out, tried to work it out roughly, and it must be. I've got friends that have had way over 1,000. Do you know what I mean? It's all relative. You never ever at the top of what you do. You know, people recognise me for being good because I was 10 times British champion, 3 times European champion, and I'd won world titles in a few different disciplines as well. But my friend was 6 times world champion. One of my students is 15 times world champion, not in a low level. Yeah. This is back over the very, very top level. So he's one of the guys that I trained, because when I'm fresh out of the Parachute Regiment and I'm training recruits, I'm still fighting, and then I'm training my fight squad. I treated them like recruits, like Joes, and they were doing, I made them all sign contracts and spoke to the parents. I said, I'm training these lot separate to everyone else, and this is what I expect from them. You can do it or not do it, but if you're going to do it, this is my rules. You're going to dance to my tune and do everything that I did. And they fucking loved it. And all the parents that bought into it, it's borderline child abuse looking back now, what I used to do with those lot. But I made some absolutely outstanding fighters, and one of them's now, he's grown man now, fights for karate combat, goes around the world and fights and gets paid. He's 15 times world champion. Elijah Evel, his name is. But I had a whole team of them once. I had a whole flipping army of them. I used to go to tournaments. We used to win everything, So I pulled back from that because I don't teach really now. But I have got other instructors in place within my organisation that are at the top level now, and they're doing the same, keeping that same ethos, mindset, and accountability with the students.
Well, like you say, your brand is elite. Your elite podcast, you've got the kind of your book out, and it seems that everything you've done, you've produced elite kind of martial artists there that have become on to world champions in various different disciplines and that. So whatever you're doing and whatever structure you're using has worked and continues to work, pal. So no, proper, it's really, really good.
Thank you. And all that is the paratrooper mindset. That is exactly what it is. Like you just said earlier at the start of the podcast, I base everything off what I learned when I was in depot and my time in the Parachute Regiment, and that approach to everything and that resilience that you're going to get it done no matter what. You find a way. You have to find a way. And that if you just carry that through into life and don't just like come out of the reg and then just give up and relax and I'm not that man anymore. Keep being that man. You know what I mean? And put it in. Use that same mindset in everything. Don't make excuses for yourself. Hold yourself to high standards still, and everyone around you. Demand more from life and just keep going till you get it.
No, absolutely, pal. Absolutely. The last thing I want to say then before we wrap up is what you got coming up? What's next? What are you working on right now?
That's actually a very good question. I've got something quite big actually happening. So I'm running a big tournament next year, a really big one called Total Combat. It's going to be called. It's going to be on the TV. It's full contact. So it's what we've done. It's basically, mat sports. When I describe mat sports, what I mean, like karate, taekwondo, semi-contact, light contact, all ones on mats, not in rings. These are some of the best strikers in the world, okay? Bar none. Like these guys are exceptional. But there's a different principle. A lot of them, it's that they're hitting with set techniques. Some of them might start and stop or whatever, but their explosiveness, their precision, and their striking ability for hitting someone first is unbelievable. So what we've done is we're creating a lane for these in a full contact arena. I'd say it's like it's almost MMA gloves, but no grappling. So the grappling's all been removed. You can hit them on the floor 3 times if they fall down. And we've got Olympic Taekwondo athletes. We've got kickboxers. We've got traditional karate world champions all fighting off in an oval-shaped arena, okay, with slanted sides. And it's obviously full contact. £10,000 for the winners of each section. There's going to be, I think, 8 men's sections, 4 women's sections. It's going to be 7 events over 2025, and that will, obviously finish with the finals the end of 2025. And as I said, it's going to be on one of the big TV networks yet, but we're still in discussions with them to decide which one we're going to be actually presenting it on. So that's going to be big. You will see that should get mainstream, if not by the end of season 1, definitely when we get into the later seasons.
I'll look out for that, pal.
Yeah. Also, my brand, British Military Martial Arts, which is the name of my franchise, because I have my franchise of my schools, and then I have my elite mentoring, which is open to my franchisees, but other people within martial arts industry. I'm looking at the possibility of taking that overseas to Dubai as well. So I've got a meeting, hopefully, with someone in the tail end of this year. We'll see how that goes. You know what I mean? Most of the best deals I ever did never happened. You think they're going to, and then it don't. So you don't count your chickens till they've hatched, and you never celebrate until you cross the line, do you? But you got to keep going for it.
No, well, I like your drive, mate. I really like your drive, and like I say, I like your mindset, and I like how you keep pushing and keeping yourself busy with new and fresh ideas, pal. So, like I say, hats off. I like what you're doing. It's really, really good. So, and it's been a pleasure chatting, mate.
Thank you very much. You too, Chris. Really appreciate you inviting me on, and I look forward to speak to you in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, no, absolutely, pal. Looking forward to it. I'll have a chat with you in a minute off air, pal. But no, again, I appreciate making the time. It's been fascinating, pal, and my viewers and followers are absolutely going to love it. I'm sure they will. But thank you very much, pal. Speak to you soon.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.